Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do an ink drawing. I want to show you first the materials I'm going to use. And to do this, I'm going to use my Parker Metropolitan fountain pen, real trusty pen that I've used in a lot of drawings. I have a couple different white pens, a Pentel Milky Pop, and then I have a Faber-Castell white pit brush. And then I have some paintbrushes here. I have an ink right here that I use. It's called Schiefer Script, and it's a blue ink. I love to do it. Let's see. Oh, it's pretty tight right now. There we go. There's the blue ink. You'll see a little later how I use it in there. I dilute it a little bit with water. Definitely use a paper towel. So these are all the things that I'm going to do. The subject of my drawing today is going to be Yann Tiersen. Yann Tiersen, a French artist who has composed a lot of music for movies. I love his piano playing. And so what I did is I went on YouTube. I watched a video of his and freeze framed a couple different shots. And this is one that I kind of liked here just for the expression. Get to see the hands working on the piano there. And that's the one that I'm doing. So I play around with my iPad. It's my reference tool. And I'm going to set it up right over here, right behind where I'm filming. I'll show you my setup real quick right here too. So it goes like this. I have a couple long canvases propped up on top of some boxes. There's my work area. And kind of makeshift, but hey, it works pretty well. So let's put that back up here. I'm going to put my materials to the side. And let's get started. And there we go. Make sure it's centered. Check my reference picture. Make sure I'm going on the right spot. I kind of eyeball where I'm going to start. I keep a reference to where the middle's at. And from my reference picture, I draw 1-to-1, which helps. That's why the iPad is really useful, because I can make it smaller, make it bigger, and just draw 1-to-1. So here we go. Gonna get started. Usually I start around the head because that's one of the focal points. I draw a lot of portraits, and I really like to get the eyes and the proportions set based on how I draw the head. So that's where I'm gonna go with this. So let's see. Looking at where I'm at, I think I'm gonna get going on this right here. I like to start with the left eye, just out of personal preference. Well, actually the person's right eye. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'll just start it out. My drawing position when I draw to film is different than my natural drawing position. So there's a little bit of how do you say it? You have to kind of play with a little different angle. So in my mind, I have to account for the difference. If I think about it too much, I'm going to mess up the drawing, but I have to be cognizant of it. So there's a lot going on, but I do want to get lost in the drawing and not just focus all on calculations and things like that. So I've got my first kind of measures going in here, paying attention to how the eye is shaped and where it goes. The profile of the nose is important. I'm going to make sure I get that in. And I'm drawing not from what I think it is, but I'm drawing from what I see directly on the tablet. So I want to make sure the picture that I've chosen is one that I feel completely comfortable with, because making it up as you go gets really tricky, especially if it's a portrait. A slight little deviation on the face is you can pick that up really quickly. So I try to draw as accurately as possible. I do it directly in ink because over the years I've gotten real familiar with this process. I kind of drew that eyebrow a little bit off there, so I'm going to play with that a little bit more. I recommend still to start with pencil for comfort level. I personally think you want to get the proportions right, and if in ink you're not as comfortable right away, I recommend pencil. The reason I use ink is because I do have a level of comfort that is really high, and feel pretty comfortable getting it the first time. Not to say I don't mess up either. There are times when it gets really dicey and I really don't like what I've done. Now, if the drawing is a little bit off, I'll still be able to make some corrections along the way, based on my use of the blue ink later. I'll kind of show you that as we go along. So there is a little wiggle room. And let's see. So here, he's got an expression where he's almost not biting his lower lip, but you can kind of see where there's a level of concentration on his face that I hope I can capture. I don't know how accurately I'll do it as I'm talking and explaining things. It's not the most natural way to draw, but hey, I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see what happens. There we go. All right. It's not... I see some things that I would like to fix already, but I'm just going to have to kind of move forward and let those be before I make any big edits. A drawing develops over time. If you're constantly trying to get everything right away, you're never going to get it done. So you just kind of have to move forward in some parts of the drawing when you would like to stop. But that's natural. All right, so I'm getting this face in. Let's see. So some of it on the face, I don't want to accentuate too much because a little bit later in the process, I hope to use the blue ink to define those areas more. So we're just going to kind of leave a little bit of an impression through there. I hope that works. Sometimes I make stuff as I go along, and so technique-wise, I think there's always room for improvement, but when I mess up, or when I think I've messed up, sometimes I found a better way to do things. So I encourage you to mess up too. Just not every time, or else it gets real frustrating. All right. Getting that ear in place, always look at where the top of the ear goes across the face. Is it above the eyebrow in that angle? Yes, it is. Where does the bottom part of the ear in this drawing goes right about to this point on the nose. So I just want to make sure it's proportionate. So that's one area that I look at always in portraits, just to make sure I've got it balanced just right. There's always a million things I'm looking at once when I'm working on a portrait, and if I'm thrown off a little bit, I just move forward with it. I'll see if I can fix it later on. You do have to get the eyes right. If the eyes don't work, the whole portrait kind of falls apart. So that's where you would want to spend a little extra time if needed. Let's see, the neck is coming in here. I'm going to make sure my proportions are good. There we go, we've got this. I've been drawing for a real long time, so I have a number of techniques and strategies that I've developed over time for me to try to stay precise. But a lot of times I need to remember that when I'm drawing, I really can't think too much about what I'm doing, because it'll get really stale, and it kind of defeats why I'm drawing in the first place. I like to get lost in my drawings. Here we go. Here comes the neckline here. Trying to keep my proportions just right. So I draw a little bit like in an outlining type of fashion. I don't recommend this for everyone because it takes a while to develop and get comfortable with. As I'm outlining, I'm looking at all different parts of the drawing, so I'm not solely focused just on the line that I'm drawing, if that makes sense. Let's see. But I just encourage people to draw in the fashion that they're very comfortable with, and to develop a strong sense of confidence and ability over time. I don't know if that makes really sense, but here we go. We're approaching the piano here, so I still want to make sure I'm in the right spot. The hands are incredibly important, so I'm going to focus on those a little bit more here in just a second. That's why I'm stopping here right at the cuff. Make sure my lines are drawn. And in my mind, I'm like, what are the darkest areas? What are the lightest areas? What am I going to emphasize? He's wearing a really dark sweater, so the lines that are going to be a little lighter, I'll have to use my white, or I'll have to use a watered down ink, because if not, it'll just all blend together. And some of the darkest parts will be right down in there, right where I'm highlighting. So that's what I'm looking at for that. Let's see, let's put this here. Typically I draw with my reference picture right beside my drawing. Right now it's kind of propped up against the back, so it's not in my favorite area to be able to draw from, but for the sake of this video, I'm doing it this way. There we go. Here's the back. I'm going to leave that open-ended, I think. I don't want to completely trap him in this drawing. There needs to be a little bit of breathing room, and I've always been able to draw pretty precisely what I see. I'm pretty fortunate in that way. But if it's too rigid, if it's too precise almost, it loses a little bit of that breathing room. And that's something that I'm going to develop really soon here. I'll show you. But first, going to get those hands in just right. A little bit off, I can tell already, but That's all right. We'll just live with that. I actually loosen up my drawings afterwards. A lot of people will go from a looser to a tighter type of approach, which makes complete sense. I mean, um, that's what I would recommend for people to do. But at the same time, this is just my approach, and I feel like I can get a real precise drawing the first time. So if I go precise, everything is in place, and then I will loosen it up with water and different techniques that give it more breathing room. It'll make sense once you see it. All right, there's one hand in. Now as I'm drawing, I get some funny ideas like, hey, what if I didn't draw it? What if I, instead of drawing a piano, I drew a cat? Yann Tiersen would be playing a cat instead of a piano. And his hand position would look kind of funny that way. But so there's a whole host of ideas that usually go through my mind when I'm doing this. That would be more in a illustrative type of fashion. I don't know. I don't have always the clearest direction of what I'm going to end up with. And as I'm drawing these hands, I'm going to have to situate the piano just right. And a piano is another really recognizable thing. And if you draw it a little bit off, people will notice those differences really quickly. So in my mind, I'm already prepping myself to think about where do I want to start, what do I want to focus on. That balance is going to have to be there. All right, so the hands in, the figures in. Let me look at my reference picture. Yeah, it cuts off there. Cuts off right about there. So I don't rely on my imagination too much in these first phases. I let the picture be, and I draw from what I see. I've never been really good drawing from my imagination. In fact, I almost avoid it. And I think that's where I could grow a whole bunch. Like if I really got comfortable with that, I think my drawing would take on a different a different dimension. But I've never really focused on it. Maybe I'll keep a sketchbook of only things I imagine. It's just daunting. All right, I'm looking at the lines to perspective. This is about the center line. All the other lines are going to go out from there, kind of in perspective. I think the midline, where would be that midline? So probably right down through here. So anything out of this is going to be bent and arced in a kind of way in perspective. So I have to keep that in mind too. I'm not going to overly emphasize that, but I have an artist that from Denver that I love to follow. His name is Paul Heaston, and when he draws, he's very accurate, but he is able to get these perspectives. It's not a fisheye, and it's hard to describe, but it's amazing how he sees an image and he's able to recreate it. And it's very technical, but at the same time, it's very artistic. And it's full of feeling too. It's this amazing thing that very few people are able to capture. All right. Ooh, did I follow that line for the keys? I don't even know. I'll have to see here. If that's a little bit off, that will be annoying. All right. These keys are getting closer to the viewer, so they've got to get a little bit bigger as they come along. So I'm going to give that impression that they come, the spacing is a little bit more than back here. All right, I'm not going to overly emphasize this piano part, but ooh, I think I already did a snafu there, but oh well, so sad. All right, the fun part of the drawing is coming up. This is kind of the laying in of kind of the skeletal phase, I would call it. You're putting in all the lines, all the inside part. Then afterwards, we're going to try to give it a little bit more life. Although I enjoy this. I think it stands on its own. All right, the upright piano is going up this way. All right, for drawing straight lines, I don't know what my strategy really is, other than picturing where the line's going and draw where you want it to go. As I'm drawing this line up, I'm keeping in mind the edge of the paper so that it stays pretty parallel. And same thing for this line. I'm trying to keep it in looking at the face too. So as I'm drawing that line, I'm looking at several different things and keeping that in mind. So this top one, yeah. There isn't too much there. I kind of almost want to leave it like that. I don't think I'm going to add too much more to this piano part. And this is where really the artistic decisions start coming in. Like, what do you leave out? What do you leave for the viewer to think about? What do you leave? What do you leave in? What do you emphasize? Drawing it is one thing, and then in your mind thinking about how you want it to what are the focus areas. If you draw this whole detailed part on this side, you're going to lose a little bit of his facial expression because the eye is going to be pulled to this part, whereas you want maybe a little more emphasis there. You want some emphasis here. So kind of this diagonal here, this relationship here I'm going to play with. So what I might do is give this some good detail. Let it breathe, let it breathe, let it breathe. Lots of detail. Let it breathe, let it breathe, let it breathe. So that's kind of my plan moving forward, but who knows? It might change as it goes along. All right, let's see. Going back to the face just for a little bit more. There's a little bit of an expression here. He's got a few lines up here. I'm a little hesitant to do it because I know it's going to change there, but I'm going to go super light on it, or try to. This is why I like this pen, because I feel like I can capture what I need to in a few lines, and not I can go heavy or I can go soft. It really does a great job of that. Don't want to go too dark because then it's gonna be hard to change afterwards. All right, I'm just about there. Just a few more lines of emphasis, and then I'm gonna go for the ink and see what happens. All right, there you go, Yann. You are in place. All right. Let's open this ink up here. I'm going to put it right beside the paper there so you guys can see that. Bring in the water just on the edge. I have my paper towel all set and ready. Here we go. I'll start with a medium one and just kind of go from there. Get the brush wet a little bit. And then now I'm going to dip in here, and I think I'm just going to go for the start from the head and then move across the paper, kind of how I first drew it. I'm going to put some pretty good doses of color in here. So we'll try this, but I don't want to overdo it. I'm looking at where it's going to be darkest. I'm not going to start on that yet. I think I'm going to go here. So now I'm going to spread a little bit of that ink throughout there. All right. It's going to be really tricky here. He has some gray hair. So I might just dab it afterward. Let's see. Follow that line. All right, let's see what happens if I do that. There we go. A little bit of room for that gray hair. I'm gonna have to get. There we go. I'm really hesitant to start here. Let's see. That really is. There we go. I'll have to go under here. And I bounce around my drawings a lot. I'm not completely methodical with having to complete a spot, and so I bounce around a lot and come back to certain things. All right, I better just jump into it. A little hesitant here, but let's do that. There we go. Just making sure I'm not making it too dark. And if it is, I'll correct it along the way. There we go. So I'm just kind of lifting some of that color. So I'm doing that. There we go. This is a real tricky part around the eyes. And I can always go back over with ink too afterwards, so it's not the worst thing. Touch that under there. These are really close-up details that are hard to do on video. Oop. I may add some splatter later too, we'll see. These lines a little bit of breathing room. Yeah, that really emphasized them. I don't like what I just did there, but oh well, too bad. Maybe with my white pen I'll have to go back over and fix that. I'm gonna add a little bit more color down through here. Go. Kind of a darker spot there anyways in the first place. Yeah, there we go. So you can kind of see I'm building up the values a little bit in here. Oops. It's going to morph into different things, but a little bit more there. Oop. Really don't like what I've done in that up here. I wish I could redo part of that, but oh well, it'll fit somehow in all that mess. All right, let's go heavy on the blue for the sweatshirt. Sweater, here we go. That'll probably bleed into the skin a little bit there. We'll have to see what happens with that. All right, I'm going to spread this pretty fast. Some people would you can actually get it wet beforehand and then drip the ink into it, and the ink will naturally spread in there, which would be kind of a smart thing to do. But right now I'm just working faster to spread that ink and make sure it doesn't dry and create too many different lines of work. Like here it's pretty well blended so far, and you won't see where I started it or ended it, which I'm working on. I'm gonna leave just the edge of that for now so that I can see where that is real good. All right, I want to go too heavy through here because I want it to breathe a little bit. Let's see what happens with this. Check out my reference picture. A line for the leg there. Do this. I'm going to let that drip. Alright, I think I'm going to leave it like that. Haven't quite decided where that's going to end, or I might just water it out a little bit. I'll show you. Just drops of water at the edge. It's going to pick up that right there like that. It's a little bit more than I would want for that, but there we go. All right, we'll see if that does anything. Sometimes I just play with this and we'll see what techniques evolve from that. Dampen that. There we go. Just creating a border that on this drawing that, oops, I got a little bit of old ink paper in there. Just paint it off on the side there. All right, I'm not 100% behind what I just did there, but oh well. We'll work with it. All right, let's get these hands in for the detail. I haven't done a great job of protecting my drawing. I can see some drops up there from using it. This comes more from filming than anything else. If I'm doing this off camera, I will be a little more careful with that approach, but that's all right. I'm gonna leave that in there. I'm not gonna be too picky about how that goes. All right, so I'm just emphasizing the ink there, the black keys. I'm not going to do every single one because there's this real strong highlight on it, but as you move further back they do get less of that highlight and more of a solid black. This is really a dark part on the piano right here because the light isn't showing on it, so I'll put a little more of that blue in there like that. All right. Let's do this. Here we go. Ooh, I went a little too far on that one. That's all right. All right. I don't want to do too much on that. Yeah, I really don't like what I did around here, so I'm going to have to play with that, but oh well. We'll see. Let's do this. There we go. For the piano. All right. Let's make this real watery and loose. I think that has a little bit right through there. There we go. I like better what I'm doing right here with this, so. All right, not too far. All right, let's see what's happening here. Give this a little bit more on here because I'm going to darken it up some. There we go. I don't know if I love what I just did there either. Oh well, I've got my white pen that I can work with too afterwards, so there we go. Get that like that. there is a little bit going on underneath there. All right. There we go. There we go. Make that fade a little bit in there. Fade. Oh man, what did I do to you, Yann? All right, we'll see. Okay, so we've moved a little further in this one. I kind of like what's going on right here. I'm debating whether to use a background or not, and I think I'm going to put a little bit in the background because this is dark enough to where I could make the outline of grass. That's in the video here, so I'm going to do this. Just kind of follow along here. There we go. Now we're going to let that drop and sit in here. Whoa, that's not picking it up real good. I let that dry too fast. Oh well. Let's add a little more ink in there. There we go. Do this. Blend it through there. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing right here, but we'll see. That trails behind a little bit here. Not too much, though. Just give it a little feel there. And there we go. Kind of a darker spot that goes through here. Alright, let's do this. This is kind of the water line over here. I think that'll work. There we go. Give this a little sense of horizon. We're getting there. Contrast against the eye there. Alright, let's see where we're going with this. Behind there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use some drops after this. Check my. That's a little too far out there. Let's. There we go. All right, that's starting to go somewhere. One more last one. Have to make this really faint because it's really in the distance. See where that one starts. There we go. Go like that. Let's see. There's a little bit of shape in there. A little darker there because I like the contrast against there. Technically it's grass, but give it a little bit of a feel while it's wet there. We'll see what happens if I do that. So this is something I would not have planned in my original thing, but I'm just giving it a try and seeing if that's going to give it a little different dimension. I don't know if I like that or not, but we'll see as the drawing goes. If I don't like it, one of the things I can do is just this, pick it up, and it makes it a lot more subtle. Yeah, that's better. Keep it like that. I'm going to go a little bit darker on this first line here. There we go. I like that. All right, emphasize a few more places really dark. So I'm going to Do another layer of ink where I want it to be darkest. We're going to work on that sweatshirt here in a second, kind of avoiding it a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. All right, slight little hints at the lines on the keys here. Yeah, that'll be cool right here. A couple loose lines, and that gives it kind of that feeling like it's approaching. All right, I really don't like what I did with this sweatshirt, so we'll just see. We'll go over some of this again. Give this kind of a ink feel this way. I got a few lines I need to get in here like that. And then I'm going to do this. That's nice and dark through there. Let's just fix this. And if I were doing this, all right, let's just do this. Here we go. Yeah, it's much better. My eye feels better after fixing that. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that for now. All right. Now that I've kind of filled in the ink part, time to do a little bit more drawing. Because I'm filming, I'm going to do it a little quicker here. I would generally let this sit on my desk for a while, let it dry, do a couple different things, and then come back to it. Here, I'm just going to add those lines again. Build it back up a little bit. Yeah. See, I don't totally like what I did with the ear there, but we'll just have to do for now. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm going to loosen up this drawing. One of the ways I do that, I just add some lines kind of in the ballpark. Like as if they were planned. So loose lines combined with the other lines create a little different vibrancy that I really like. So like if that was planned there, and I can darken a few areas too that way. The wrinkles in the hands a little bit. There we go. This is one of my favorite parts of the drawing because it's just really loose and free, and I don't feel constrained by too much in this area. All right, I'm going to fix the highlight on the arm real quick. Give that just a touch right there. I'll leave it like that. Or maybe I'll dampen it, but I can see the ink is still wet in there, so I got to be careful. There we go. Not 100% on that, but there we go. And then there's a few lines that go up through here. And then once this dries, I'm going to do a little bit of splattering with the ink. This will give it a sense of direction a little bit with that. All right. All right, how's it looking from up there? Yeah, not too bad. 45 minutes in, that's a big video. All right, let's do this. Yeah, just about done here. All right, here we go. So here's the splatter technique. I'm going to add a little bit through there. This gives it a little different life on this. Don't have to overdo it. The one landed on his nose. It's kind of funny, but that's all right. Let's go a little heavier in that spot. There we go. A little bit around those big dots. There we go. I'm going to do a little bit of white splattering. And that I can pick up afterwards. Give it a kind of a different wet look in here. There we go. I'm going to get that one that's on his nose just because it bugs me. There we go. Kind of see the white start to develop there. There we go. That gives it a little more life too. Yeah. Actually, the splattering is welcome on this one. All right, I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. I don't think I'm going to change anything else. Thanks for watching.